Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of well,
When we listen to songs by the Rolling Stones, we're not just listening to the legendary band formed in London in 1962. We're also listening to one of the most legendary and pioneering bands of British rock, whose music has managed to transcend borders and generations, both for its lyrics and its image that challenge the traditional values of society, thus becoming one of the most important bands of the counterculture of the 60s. In this video, through their music, you will get to know the band that knew how to portray a generation that watched as the world was going to hell, and they left as a testimony in the lyrics of their songs as well as in the style of their sound. These are stories behind the songs of the Rolling Stones. Number 7. Gimme Shelter. With this emblematic song, the legendary album Let It Bleed from 1969 opens, reflecting the end of the 60s and showing a darker band that moved away from the peace and love of the hippies to fully engage in the Vietnam War, as well as witnessing the birth of the first serial killers. It is said that Keith Richards was sitting in an apartment in London during a strong storm, and while strumming an acoustic guitar, he looked out the window and came up with the music for the song as he watched people running quickly in all directions. Seeing how some people lost their umbrellas to the strong storm, he remembers, it was as if they were in hell. Mick Jagger loved the melody and finished the lyrics of a song that seemed to capture the violence in American society, opening with the phrase, "Oh, a storm is threatening my very life today. If I don't get some shelter, oh yeah, I'm gonna fade away." Number 6. Jumpin' Jack Flash. The song was composed in the country house that Keith Richards had bought in the southeast of England, and both he and Mick Jagger were tired and up until very late trying to compose something while it began to rain at dawn, at which time the vocalist took a good scare when hearing the sound of very strange footsteps passing very close to the window. And Keith Richards, looking through it, reassures him that it was his gardener Jack Dyer, a country Englishman who was a great guy and was wearing rubber boots while crossing and jumping through the rain. The guitarist commented in an interview that after this incident, he took his guitar in an open tuning and began to play with the phrase "Jumping Jack," to which Mick Jagger added "Flash." It turned out to be a wonderful phrase that sounded very good with the rhythm they were developing. The guitarist remarks that the scare helped them clear their minds and made it easier to sketch out the song. Number 5. Brown Sugar. This song was written by Mick Jagger in the late 60s as the first single from the acclaimed album Sticky Fingers. It contains some of the most controversial lyrics of his career, as it discusses the enslavement of African American women and all the taboo practices that this entails. Some members of the band agreed that the lyrics were written so hastily that if they were offensive, it was accidental or a result of the subconscious. According to its composer, the lyrics narrate in the first person the worst atrocities committed by slave traders. However, the way the song is written has easily allowed it to be pointed out throughout its history as an apology for stereotypes, as well as for torture and female transgression. Number 4. Start Me Up. This song was a twist of fate that led to its rescue from the vast number of recordings made throughout the band's history. It began as a melody based on a bass phrasing used in reggae that Keith composed years ago. It was a long creative process of trial and error until they finished recording it and provisionally named it Never Stop. However, in the following sessions, the group rejected it again to the point that they almost forgot about it. Keith even ordered that the tape it was recorded on be erased. But it wasn't until 5 years later, when someone reviewing all those abandoned takes found the rock version that no one remembered, saw potential in it, and reworked it, resulting this time in an energetic and catchy song to which they added an excellent sound. Number 3. Sympathy for the Devil.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
This song was released in 1968 as part of the album Beggar's Banquet and solidified the Rolling Stones' nickname as their Satanic Majesties, which they were already known as after releasing their experimental album Their Satanic Majesties Request. This led the global press and religious groups to ban and associate the band's music with dark magic and Satan worship. However, the song's lyrics are actually inspired by the Russian novel The Master and Margarita, one of the most important satirical works of the 20th century in the former USSR. From there, Mick Jagger decided that the song would deal with how the fallen angel takes part in many of humanity's most popular historical tragedies, implying that humans have always sympathized with the evil that leads them to commit atrocious acts against their fellow beings. Number 2. Painted Black.
I see a red door and I want it painted black.
The song is included on the album Aftermath and is characterized by the delicate and bright sound of the sitar, a traditional instrument from India and Pakistan that appropriately expresses the feelings of depression and desolation experienced by the narrator, who is at a funeral and feels the need to strip away the colors from everything he perceives to dye them black. It is said that Jagger took inspiration from the novel Ulysses by Irish writer James Joyce and sought to capture its concept of universal sadness and desolation. The idea of including the sound of the oriental instrument came from Brian Jones after a conversation with George Harrison, who had already used it for the Beatles' song Norwegian Wood, and thus they finally combined a tune that mimicked Jewish wedding music with Middle Eastern music.
Black. I see my red door.
Number 1. Satisfaction. It is one of the most distinctive songs of the British band and became the anthem that catapulted them to fame since the release of their single in 1965. Keith Richards commented that he originally did not think of the riff as the central part of the song and that the tune was intended for a wind instrument, but the moment he entered the recording studio, a representative from Gibson handed him one of their newest guitar pedals, the well-known Gibson Fuzz Box, which gave a distorted sound that seemed too much to him. However, convinced by his bandmates, he used it for the demo, expecting to later adapt it to a wind line. 2 weeks later, he heard the demo on the radio and, surprised, saw how it became a hit, mainly highlighted by the distorted riff. Gibson sold out their Fuzz Box pedals. If you liked the video, share it with your friends and family so they can learn more about these bands. Remember, you can also leave us in the comments which other bands or singers you would like to see in these videos. Until next time.